this is J.M.Wong, the author of the fantasy novel Under Cursed Scythe. So, at the beginning of this day, I decided to watch a movie because after very intense exam paper marking, I decided that I need a little bit of rest, both mentally and physically, a rest for that. And so I decided to watch a movie on my own, which is one of the ways that I help myself to relax. Like, I don't hate watching movies with a friend or my family. It's just that when I watch with them, it's hard to avoid, talking with them during the movie, discussing about the plot. So when I'm watching alone, the only thing I could do is to jot down notes, which I'm sure you're pretty familiar with my method here. So the movie that I'm going to talk about today is the X-Men Dark Phoenix. Now, here's a little disclaimer. I am a huge fan of the X-Men franchise or any other superhero movies, but X-Men is my earliest favorite superhero franchise because before I watched Batman or Superman, the first ever group of superheroes that I fell in love with was X-Men that was broadcast on Cartoon Network. So, and even for the concept of having a school that's filled with people who knows magic or have superpowers, this concept, that my love for this concept was born from the X-Men franchise because that was, the first stories that contained elements like this. So, yeah, X-Men is a huge deal for me, and I've watched all the movies, no matter the old ones or the new ones, and of course the latest one, the Dark Phoenix one. And for those who are a huge X-Men fan, you should have known that the Dark Phoenix, this story, or at least this concept, was done before in the old version's movie. And for me, having watched the Dark Phoenix, the version 1, I was expecting it, for the version 2 to be similar to the plot, which did not, and it's okay if it's not the same. It's similar to Aladdin, the movie, if you haven't checked out my previous movie review. So yes, for that, I have seen the cartoon version before for Aladdin, and when I see the live action movie, the plot was totally different. So that was okay, and I have the same feeling towards the X-Men Dark Phoenix story. So if it's different, it's fine. However, if you're expecting it to be better than the old Dark Phoenix version, I do not agree with that. It's just messy, lot of cliche, and everything's happening so fast to a point that I just don't feel it was a complete story. It just feels like I was being showcased a lot of movie trailers or separate videos that was combined by fans. For those who haven't seen the movie before and you don't want spoilers, you can click the close button and come back another time. But for those who don't care, about spoilers and you just want to see whether it's worth it, or you just want to see whether I have the same feeling as you guys, let's continue. So about the plot, like, to be honest, if you are thinking of spending money to watch a film, I suggest you not to. You just go and watch all the trailers, and very likely you can already puzzle, you can put the puzzles together and you can already know the entire plot. There wasn't really a huge surprise for me, and a lot of the things I've written down, expected, that's the word I kept on having. Like, it's nothing new from the trailer. For example, you basically can, guess that at the beginning there would be a scene where Xavier, Professor X would be talking with Jean, when she was little, like after the car crash. There's definitely the Voldemort and Dumbledore scene. Like, remember in one of the movies, in Harry Potter movies, where, Dumbledore's come and talk to, Voldemort, the child version of Voldemort. That scene would be directly put into the Jean Grey, the younger Jean Grey and Professor X scene. That's basically it. And then after that, about the cliche of stealing memories, I'm not sure which movie that I've seen this before, but yes, I've seen it 1,000 times where, whenever you try to protect them, so you cover up the ugly truth, it always ends up with, where the protagonist ends up bursting, or the villain turning bad after realizing the ugly truth and being angry at you for, covering up the truth for the excuse of protecting her. So that was being used in this movie, definitely. And then, okay, so I would compare Raven's death with Black Widow's death in Avengers Endgame. So, similar to the Avengers Endgame, there's a lot happening in the Dark Phoenix movie. However, for Avengers Endgame, you can still feel there's a steps are being slowly built on before they reach a suspense or reach a sudden death of certain characters, which is Black Widow in Avengers Endgame case. However, in Dark Phoenix, Raven's death was like I wouldn't say I didn't expect it, because I kind of guessed it from the movie trailers. Like, once again, I just want to say, if you go and watch all of movie trailers. You can basically puzzle, put the puzzles together and you can already know what's happening in the movie. So for that, I already expected it because there's this one trailer that I don't remember what it's about. It's where, there's a scene where Raven was trying to convince Jean on something, and Jean said, I can't control it. And then later there's a scene like, I killed a friend. So basically, you can already guess, Jean is going to kill Raven, and Raven says it's going to push Jean entirely towards darkness. It's going to lead her to burst. That's kind of expected. But then I was expecting more. Is there a beautiful, like, for example, in the end game for Black Widow, you kind of, towards her death, you feel a lot of emotions. It's, even though it's sudden, there's time for you to react, to mourn for her. Like, why? Because you can see that she was despair. She was trying hard to pull the team together after losing a lot of her friends, knowing that she will never get them back again. And in fact, she turned from this very strong and confident woman to this very fragile and emotional woman. And when she reaches this point that she knew, like, I'm going to die, like, I have to die for the greater good, like, I have to die so my friends could go on with the mission. Like, there's this, it slowly builds on the audience's feelings towards Black Widow, and at some point you pity her, you feel sorry for her. However, I think for the Raven case in Dark Phoenix, they tried to do similar thing from the Avengers Endgame, but it did not work as the same as Black Widow. Like, yes, you can feel that Raven's very frustrated. She disagrees with Professor X's ways. She wants to leave, but she doesn't. She stays and tries to protect the kids. But then she was not despair enough. Okay, she was not sad enough for us to feel sorry for her as well. So when she really died, she's trying to convince Jean, like, just come back home, and she died. I just don't feel anything. Like, it's just like, okay, someone died, but there was no emotion into it. There was no building on, and the building on depends on whether us, the audience, could feel sorry and sympathize with this character before killing her off. I think that's the main point. Like, I'm not sure because English is not my native language, but I'm just trying to express this. Like, whenever a character, a good character that you love die, first you have to make us audience to fall in love with that character. Like, to be honest, for the new X-Men franchise, I don't think, or perhaps it's just too many superhero movies nowadays. Like, not a lot of people have fallen in love with X-Men entirely, the new X-Men. Like, for me, I love the old X-Men because I grew up with it, and there's so many movies. But for the X-Men franchise, in fact, there's just a few movies for the latest, like the newest version. So I don't have the time to build relationships with these characters. Like, if one of them, I'm saying the new X-Men, one of them, left the show or dies, I don't have much feelings. But it doesn't mean that you cannot do it within one movie. So yeah, if you want to do it, just trying to build on. Like, there are movies that are not like sequels, just one movie. But people would feel sad or mourn for certain characters' death within this movie because they were being built on. They can fall in love with this character or sympathize with these characters within the first hour, and then when that character dies, of someone who's familiar with someone who we love and we care about dies, that's how it triggers us, the audience, emotions. But it doesn't do that in the X-Men Dark Phoenix movie. It just feels so rushed. You just like, okay, Raven doesn't agree with that. She wants to protect. She wants to leave. All you know are these things, and then when she convinced Jean, voila, she's dead. That's it. So for me, Raven's death is just like a device, a very cold, distant kind of tool to move the plot on forward. The plot where, Jean turns evil. Okay, evil. So I just feel like this. And this kind of techniques is being used in the next part as well. For one, I feel like the scene where the mutants, the X-Men, fight with Magneto. The scene in New York where they fight, one side trying to kill Jean and the other side trying to protect her. That scene was also useless. I can feel that it's trying to push the plot forward, or I don't think it's even used for pushing the plot forward because I don't think it helps the movie in any way. I just feel like that scene was just trying to show us, it's just trying to say, okay, so this fight is going to worsen the relationship between humans and mutants. Like, now the humans would definitely hate the mutants because, they ruin their cities, they fight, and they affect the human's life. Like, that's the use. I think the only use they want to put in this movie. But it was so random. It was so useless. I just feel like when I watched that few moments, of fighting, I was like, what the, like, even is it necessary? Like, it's pretty clear, when the president cuts off Professor X, like not allowing him to call in. That was quite obvious. The news about the mutants. I forgot, what is it? Is it refugee camps or what, a prison or something? That's pretty obvious, showing that the humans' relationship with the mutants is very fragile, and one wrong step already caused them to hate mutants immediately, regardless of all the good deeds they have done. So that was pretty clear from the news. You don't have to include a fight of mutants, and then how mutants affect the humans, and they make the humans hate them even more. Humans already hate mutants. Like, it's very obvious in a lot of the other movies. So that was very unnecessary. I feel like the only thing they tried to, why they put it inside and to move it forward, is so that, this fight can be moved to the trains. So there are so many plot holes. For example, like before Jean, the whole plot was surrounding Jean having these uncontrollable powers, and she said she will always hurt people. And because she feared of it, she tried to stay away from it, which she didn't succeed, and she ends up hurting people. Now, this power was already mentioned at the very beginning of the scene when she was little. But the ultimate power that actually led her to her destruction or any harm to her friends was actually the power that she absorbed in space when she was much older. But now, okay, the plot hole would be, then why did she say the same thing when she was little? That power didn't came from that universe, kind of, I don't know, that's the power of the stars, right? How does this relate? I'm super confused when I watched this movie. Like, at the end I was like, yeah, you didn't explain about the power she had was little. Like, how does it relate? It doesn't relate, right? And one more thing. You remember the movie's title is called Dark Phoenix? Like, throughout the movie, I don't feel there was anything relating to the word Phoenix, except there's this one line, where, I think Storm or whatever, they're saying, like, telling Jean, like, people are calling you the Phoenix. Like, in the old movie, there's a reason why she was called the Dark Phoenix, because inside her body, that power was actually, called the Phoenix. But here, there was nothing. Like, even the power, the source of power that control her, it wasn't called the Phoenix. It was some kind of power from stars or a planet. I don't remember. That's it. It was never mentioned, and I don't even recall her when she exploded. Is there a Phoenix image in the sky? I'm not sure. Do correct me if there is, but yeah, I don't remember. Like, if you ask me whether this movie is about the Dark Phoenix, I don't think so. Like, it feels more like Jean's death. That's all. There's no Phoenix involved to me. So, in general, I wrote this summary at the end of the movie, saying that the movie didn't explain how Jean got the powers when she was little. Yes, and everything just didn't add up together. Everything happened too fast. Doesn't have a process, and to me, it's a total mess. And what else is that I think it's destroying the original Phoenix movie. I prefer that. Now, I think after watching this, I decided to watch the old version just to purify my mind, because I just didn't like it. And then it lacks the description on human relationship. There's no build on. It doesn't let us, audience, sympathize with any of the characters. Have everything happening too fast. And for me, to sum up a few words, is I think it's purely commercial. Just because we are fans and we are willing to pay money for it, so they just don't care about the plot for me, okay? It's very shallow, and very cliche, and yeah, a huge disappointment. So yeah, for those, I'm not sure, if you're fans, I do suggest you to consider, wait a little bit, wait until there's an online version, whatever, instead of going to cinema, because I just feel like it's a waste of money. But if you, I don't know, in the past, for bad movies, I would even say, like, oh, you can go and enjoy the special effects. Like, that happens a lot, right? I cannot say the same thing for this movie. Just nothing for me to love, especially when there's already an old version of the Dark Phoenix movie, which you expect the new version to be better, but ends up being a lot worse. So I would, in fact, advise you to watch the old version instead of paying extra money to the new version. That's my thoughts. Anyways, yeah, these are purely my thoughts. If you don't agree, do tell me in a very civilized and polite way, please. Do comment below and tell me about it. But if you like this video, remember to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. And yeah, let's end this video by saying, remember to stop existing, start living, and be alive. Bye!